Welcome to the AI Research Roundup. I'm Alex. Today we are looking at a paper from the Hugging Face Trending List, published on November 24, 2025, about 2 days ago. It presents a new image-to-video framework that keeps the person in the first frame looking consistent, while still following complex motion cues, reaching state-of-the-art quality with much less training data and compute. The paper is titled SteadyDancer, Harmonized and Coherent Human Image Animation with First Frame Preservation. And as we will see later, the approach offers some really promising directions for controllable video generation. Also, the authors shared an official GitHub repo where you get the full SteadyDancer implementation, from pre-processing scripts for pose extraction and alignment to inference code for image-to-video generation. Listeners will find environment setup instructions, checkpoint download commands, ready-made example pairs, and scripts to run the XDance benchmark. On Hugging Face, you'll find the SteadyDancer 14 billion parameter checkpoint with image-to-video animation examples that preserve the first frame's identity and motion. Figure 1 illustrates what SteadyDancer actually achieves in practice. Each row takes a driving pose video on the left and generates a new human animation sequence to the right. The first frame in each generated row keeps the person's identity and outfit, while the following frames smoothly follow the driver's motion. This alignment means the system preserves who the character is while still copying how they move. Figure 2 explains why first frame preservation is hard and why the new paradigm helps. The top row shows spatial and temporal misalignment, where the reference pose and the driven video differ in timing and body structure, so the skeletons do not line up. The middle row contrasts reference to video methods that simply stick the character onto each new pose with image-to-video methods that must align motion back to the original image. The bottom row then compares outputs, where the older one animate wobbles the character's identity, while SteadyDancer keeps the same person stable across the whole motion. Well, Figure 3 presents the full SteadyDancer pipeline, which turns a reference image and a driven pose video into a coherent animated clip. The left side encodes both appearance and pose into compact internal codes, called latents, using a variational autoencoder so they share a common space. The central condition reconciliation mechanism and synergistic pose modulation modules then reshape these latents to balance identity and motion. Finally, diffusion transformer blocks and a decoder generate the output video frames. Table 2 highlights that SteadyDancer reaches competitive video quality, with far fewer training steps and much smaller datasets than other diffusion transformer-based animation systems. This table compares extra inputs, pre-trained backbones, and total training data, so listeners can see how lightweight the setup is. Below the table, Figure 5 visually tracks training progress, from the reference in driving video to samples at different iterations. The later columns retain identity while motion becomes precise and details sharpen, which shows that strong motion control emerges early and refinement happens with relatively modest extra training. Table 1 shows that SteadyDancer matches or beats prior systems in both low-level image quality and high-level video realism. The left block on the TikTok dataset reports similarity and distortion scores, where SteadyDancer keeps very competitive values while achieving the best free-shave video distance, which measures overall video realism. The right block on the Realist Dance File benchmark reports that SteadyDancer balances subject consistency, smooth motion, and aesthetic quality better than competing methods. Alright, stepping back, the key takeaway is that SteadyDancer shows first frame preservation and strong motion control can coexist using a relatively light training recipe. That makes high-quality, identity-stable human video much more accessible for creators, games, and telepresence tools. That is it for this episode of the AI Research Roundup. I am Alex. Thanks for listening.